Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm just saying. So, I've been talking to you guys about, everybody's been talking about, between the coronavirus and now the killing of the black man in Minnesota, the black man in Central Park. So, we talk about the police. In the background, you're listening to the Earth, Wind, and Fire Evil. So, I want to read this article here. I'm going to read to you. It's called The Brief History of Slavery and the Origins of American Policing. This is written by Victor Capelier. He's a PhD, Associate Dean, and Foundation Professor, School of Justice Studies at Eastern Kentucky University. So I'm going to read this to you. And because a lot of times people think that what goes on with the police is just very new and very uh, different. And so you guys probably don't, I mean, if you're not black, you probably can't understand half this stuff. But I'm sure you've seen the exhibit Strange Fruit. Maybe some of you have never even heard of Strange Fruit. But these are some of the pictures from Strange Fruit. Okay. See the people standing around, looking. Not bothered by that at all, are they? How about this one? You have these men hanging from the trees. This is the audience. Nice audience. Doesn't bother them at all. They're like, ready to take pictures. Um, this is very depressing, but it is what it is. It's strange fruit. Okay. Black men, black women have been hung from trees for over a century. And it's because people who do that are not well. They may not admit that they're not well, but that's not godly. That's not anything to do with God. That has nothing to do with love. And if you can find something in there that says, oh, that's very loving, then you really have come unglued. Or you're just not a real human being. So anyway, I'm going to read this to you. And it says, and you can not even have to look at me, I'm just going to read it. The Brief History of Slavery and the Origins of American Policing. Written by Victor E. Capelier, PhD. The birth and development of the American police can be traced to a multitude of historical, legal, and political economic conditions. The institution of slavery and the control of minorities, however, were two of the more formidable historic features of American society shaping early policing. Slave patrols and night watches, which later became modern police departments, were both designed to control the behaviors of minorities. For example, New England settlers appointed Indian constables to police Native Americans, National Constable Association of 1995. The St. Louis police were founded to protect residents from Native Americans in that frontier city, and many Southern police departments began as slave patrols. In 1704, the colony of Carolina developed the nation's first slave patrol. Slave patrols helped to maintain the economic order and to assist the wealthy landowners in recovering and punishing slaves who essentially were considered property. Policing was not the only social institution enmeshed with slavery. Slavery was fully institutionalized in the American economic and legal order, with laws being enacted at both the state and national divisions of government. Virginia, for example, enacted more than 130 slave statutes between 1689 and 1865. Slavery and the abuse of people of color, however, was not merely a Southern affair, as many have been taught to believe. Connecticut, New York, and other colonies enacted laws to criminalize and control slaves. Congress also passed fugitive slave laws, laws allowing the detention and return of escaped slaves in 1793 and 1850. As Turner, Giacopisa, and Vandiver remarked, the literature clearly establishes that a legally sanctioned law enforcement system existed in America before the Civil War for the empress purpose of controlling the slave population and protecting the interests of slave owners. The similarities between the slave patrols and modern American policing are too salient to dismiss or ignore. Hence, the slave patrol should be considered a forerunner of modern American law enforcement. The legacy of slavery and racism did not end after the Civil War. In fact, it can be argued that extreme violence against people of color became even worse with the rise of vigilante groups who resisted Reconstruction. Because vigilantes, by definition, have no external restraints, lynch mobs had a justified reputation for hanging minorities first and asking questions later. Not too far from what we have today, if you ask me. Okay? Seems like when you're black, especially a black man, is proven guilty first before they do anything. So, anyway, because of its tradition of slavery, which rested on the racist rationalization that blacks were subhuman, America had a long and shameful history of mistreating people of color, long after the end of the Civil War. Perhaps the most infamous American vigilante group, the Ku Klux Klan, started in the 1860s, was notorious for assaulting and lynching black men for transgressions that would not be considered crimes at all had a white man committed them. Lynching occurred across the entire county, not just in the South. They meant country, not just in the South. Finally, in 1871, Congress passed the Ku Klux Klan Act, which prohibited state actors from violating the civil rights of all citizens, in part because of law enforcement's involvement with the infamous group. So clearly, the Ku Klux Klan purposely became police officers in order to be able to do what they do. Now, people might fight against that today and say that they got nothing to do with the Ku Klux Klan, but that's yet to be seen. I'm not saying every single one, but there are some Klan members in there, trust me. This legislation, however, did not stem the tide of racial and ethnic abuse that persisted well into the 1960s. Though having white skin did not prevent discrimination in America, being white undoubtedly made it easier for ethnic minorities to assimilate into the mainstream of America. The additional burden of racism has made that transition much more difficult for those whose skin is black, brown, red, or yellow. In no small part because of the tradition of slavery, blacks have long been targeted, the targets of abuse. So in other words, they're saying blacks have always been targeted to be abused. The use of patrols to capture runaway slaves was one of the precursors of formal police forces, especially in the South. This disastrous legacy persisted as an element of the police role even after the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. So it just continued. In some cases, the police harassment simply meant people of African descent were more likely to be stopped and questioned by the police, while at the other extreme, they have suffered beatings and even murder at the hands of white police. Questions still arise today about the disproportionately high numbers of people of African descent killed, beaten, and arrested by police in major urban cities in America. So, for those of you who actually thought that the police departments originated because they just needed to do it for everybody, you could see what that's really about. And a lot of people don't want to know the history of the police department. They're supposed to protect and serve, but it wasn't that they were trying to protect and serve us. They were trying to protect and serve the slave owners who owned property, who also thought that slaves were their property. So you have to understand the history behind this stuff. A lot of people say, "Oh, I wanna carry a gun." Yeah, well, listen, we can all carry one of those, I guess, with our Second Amendment right or whatever. But it's got to stop, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't stop. So this right here, you can read this article. Everybody can do their own research. There's plenty of articles on this. And don't forget the strange fruit, because this has been going on with us forever. People need to be able to, when we talk about bullying, people need to be able to elevate themselves above others so that they can feel better about themselves. But this is just pure evil. Do you understand? This is evil. This has nothing to do with godliness. God does not behave this way. If you're really a true child of God, and perhaps maybe many Caucasians don't believe in God, but I know the Ku Klux Klan used to always quote some kind of scripture. "Vengeance is mine," said the Lord. Kill those niggers. And that wasn't in the Bible. "Vengeance is mine," saith the Lord. But that other part, they be adding on other stuff. So anybody can take something and twist it around. But the truth is in the pudding. When you see, now that we have more social media and all those kinds of things, we can actually see the truth in what's happening. And this evil is unbelievable. Because that's all it is. It's not godly. It is definitely evil. Get your acts together, people. I'm telling you. We already got one plague going on. We don't need another one. Because whether you have stockpiles of guns and ammunition or not, the truth is, if Mother Nature takes over and knocks your house off of its foundation, or floods something, or burns something down, there goes all your ammunition and everything else too. I'm just saying, okay? Pull yourselves together. Get some help. That's all you gotta do. Get some help. All right? Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.